And thank you, Michelle, for that wonderful seed. And thank you for the music that was chosen today, Linda. That really it's really all weaving together, and kind of my journey has really been about ideas, and not so much how to express ideas or to make an impact with ideas, but how to learn about others' ideas and weave them together. So I like to start out my talks because I've been an actor and a performer for almost all of my life, for 35 years now. I'm comfortable with speaking in front of people, but I'm more comfortable having a dialogue, having an exchange where, it's about equal partnership. So I know in the beginning of these kinds of conversation, it is customary to introduce yourself with who are you and what do you do? I like to ask, how are you arriving and what are you bringing? So what that does is it kind of transcends really, that idea that we're trying to figure out who each other, who each other are, where are they in the pecking order, or where are they in the hierarchy, and bringing it back to how are you doing in this moment? What are you bringing and how are you arriving? Kind of brings it back into the moment about, okay, what's here now? What's alive for you? So if anyone would like to chime in and answer the question today, how are you arriving? What are you bringing? I'm going to invite you to respond. I'll answer first. The way I'm arriving at the moment is I try to put it in emotions, try to identify the emotions that I'm feeling. And, those are 5 basic emotions that I try to tune into, which are mad, sad, glad, fear, or guilt. I'm feeling joy over sadness is where I really am at the moment. I'm very joyful because for those of you who don't know, I've had to recently take a new job where I'm working weekends. So I haven't been able to come to Circle, the Sunday celebrations, for quite a few weeks now. And I miss it. I really miss it. So I'm very joyful to be here and to be reconnecting, with the community, with my friends that I've made along the way. And I'm also joyful that it's raining out because I had arranged to take off work to be here today. But I'm a coach. I coach kids sports. I would have been rained out today anyway, if I had declined to speak here today. So it's kind of like I'm feeling grateful that it's raining because, I would have I would have had to go, I wouldn't have been able to work today anyway. So it's kind of like it's all meant to be. It's all in the natural alignment. So that's the joy I'm feeling. So the sadness that I feel, and kind of getting underneath the surface, I'm sad, and I've expressed this in our development committee meetings, which we've been meeting for about 3 months now. We're coming up to our 3rd meeting here soon. The sadness I feel is that I've been on the board now for about a year with Circle of Miracles, and I feel like I'm just starting to get to know the people, here, the facilitators and the other board members. And the sadness is a deep desire, for connection, is a deep desire to, really just take the time and really get to know who all of you are. What are your gifts? What are your challenges? What is something, that is meaningful to you? So today I'm going to share with you some of my journey in the arts. I've done, like I said, I've been an actor for 35 years. I've taught drama. I write. I make films. I'll talk a little bit about my film here in a little bit. But I want to ask all of you today about how are you arriving and what are you bringing. I want to ask first, just with a show of hands, how many of you participate in an artistic endeavor, whether it be music, writing, visual arts? Okay. I'm going to ask you all to kind of popcorn that out. What do you do? So please just feel free to just blurt it out. What kind of art do you participate in? Writing, painting. Okay. Painting. I'm sorry. Burning wood. Okay. Absolutely. That's going to be one of my other questions. What do you do that you think might be artistic, but might not be considered, artistic? Yeah. Pyrography. Oh, that's very cool. Okay, burning images into what? Well, there you go. That is a visual art. Absolutely. Yeah. So those of you who might not have been heard, what else? What else is going on out there? Gardening. Yep. Absolutely. Decorating. Yes. So decorating, gardening, writing. What you do, which I don't remember the name of it anymore. Yeah, burning wood. Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this. Do you feel what you do when you're being artistic? Do you feel like that has value? Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like that value is recognized? No, no. Yeah, Anne says no, absolutely. Yeah, so we're going to explore a little bit about that today as well. So yeah, going into really the arts and spirituality. Now, just from a popcorn perspective, say yes or no. Do you feel like that spirituality expresses itself through you and through your art?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I heard a lot of yeses here. A lot of yeses here. Yeah, and my journey kind of looking at kind of like the psychological, the spiritual, all of that with the arts, it brings me back to natural law, the natural laws of the universe. Even when I look at conflict and confrontation between people with different ideologies and different religious beliefs, that it comes back to, what natural laws are in place and how do those natural laws express themselves? So we'll play a little game here. I'm thinking of a number between 1 to 20, and somewhere in there are the natural laws that I think about quite a bit. Let's see if we can guess how many of those are. How many natural laws do you think are at play?
Well, I got the number 12.
That's it. That's exactly right. That's it. Now that's debatable. That's arguable and whatnot. But yeah, but that's that's the specific number that I've been exploring over the last couple of years. So what are one of those natural laws? We'll just popcorn it out. What do you think one of those? Yes, law of cause and effect. Absolutely. Absolutely. What's one that's been getting a lot of attention over the last 10 or 15 years, especially in law of attraction? Yes. So there's law of attraction, law of cause and effect. These are all things that I find, expressing itself through art all of the time. Any others? Any others that come to mind that just kind of bubble up for you?
Maybe someone on Zoom.
Yeah, maybe someone on Zoom, if you'd like to raise your hand. Any other natural laws that might be coming up for you that express being kind?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Yeah, being kind. I'll tell you what, I think of two natural laws when it comes to being kind. The first is the law of relativity, which means that, everybody has a different perspective, and it's really figuring out how are they relative to each other. The law of divine oneness, which means we're all connected, and expressing itself, expressing that through kindness, is really kind of where that law emerges. So, the law of divine oneness, the law of relativity, law free will. I kind of think of that as absolutely, because free will does come into it. I think of that as the law of inspired action. That's another one. Law of inspired action. Again, we can come up with any language around this. But yeah, free will is one of those, one of those natural. We live in a world of free will. Law of duality. The law of duality, so that also I think is very emergent in free will. Yes. Yeah, it's actually, yes, the law of reciprocity. Another language for that is the law of compensation. Yeah, the law of compensation. So yeah. Gravity. Yeah, that's a scientific law. I kind of think of that one as vibration, the law of vibration. So that there's different aspects of how reality works, and gravity is how it works in the physical universe. So yeah. So these are all laws that I find that expresses, that finds expression through the arts. Other ones that, so we talked about law of attraction, law of polarity, law of vibration, cause and effect, compensation, relativity, correspondence. Correspondence is another one. That's law of rhythm, perpetual transmutation of energy, which is, which I found and has been very evident in my life. Law of inspired action, law of divine oneness. And this kind of ties into what Linda was saying earlier with the cards. There's something called the law of gender, which kind of means we both have, like, that's the law of polarity in action. We have masculine and feminine aspects, that are acting, within us, and, finding balance or observing imbalances within. I think that's a very powerful law that's expresses itself through arts. So yeah, absolutely. So that is, so that's really been a part of my journey, is, starting to understand these natural laws, because like, like a lot of people, I really got into law of attraction in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and I had a little bit of success with that, but at some point, something just didn't click, or something just didn't go right. And it was because I didn't understand, or I was just starting to discover the other natural laws that were in place. So a little bit about my journey. As a young boy and a teenager, I loved the martial arts. If you would have talked to me when I was 12 years old, my ambition was to be in the Olympics for Taekwondo. By the time I was, 14 or 15. But because of that energy, that confrontational energy, I was very angry. And I got beaten up quite a bit, even though I was, a second-degree black belt by the time I was 14 years old. I couldn't handle, at first getting beat up by a very strong, kid, who did a lot of farm work, and then getting beaten up by, a couple different, I thought I could handle an attack from two people, but I couldn't. And I started doing some really deep soul searching about that. And that's when I found acting, where my challenge wasn't about asserting myself physically anymore. It was about really understanding my emotions. So, I became very ambitious again, when I became an actor, and, I started doing acting. I probably was doing 3 performances at any given time throughout my high school years. And so productivity was never a problem with me. So I worked really hard at that. And again, being ambitious as I was, and being that kind of masculine driven energy, if you would have talked to me when I was 18 years old, I would have said, well, I'm going to win the Academy Award for Best Actor by the time I'm 20. Of course, that didn't work out either as well, because, it's, there's so much competition, and there's just so much positioning, and there's so much power struggle. So what happened is I channeled that energy and that ambition into teaching, to understanding, the psychology and the spiritual aspects of what's going on interpersonally between people. So, I still wanted to do acting, but I ended up double majoring in theater and in business. And when I came out of that, I was doing a lot of teaching, and I worked in finances. I worked at a Morgan Stanley office in my early 20s, in my mid 20s, and I became suicidal. I really had to take a look at the competitiveness of everything I was involved in, from finances to the artistic world. And it made me very depressed and very sad. I did make the attempt to end my life on 2 occasions. And that's where kind of like the deeper stuff started coming up. What is this really about? What, from a spiritual aspect, what is really going on here? And that's when I kind of started to step away from wanting to do acting as a profession, and facilitating conversations between mental health providers and mental health consumers. And in a lot of our conversations, we don't call them consumers, we call them challengers, because they're challengers of the status quo. They're challengers of the system. And through that, I became more of a facilitator. I started expressing my art through film. I was a television producer for a little while there. That's where I made a lot of friends that I still have very deep connections with today. And I ended up making this film called 2 by 2. So Mike, I'm going to have you cue up that journey here, and I'll share with you the journey here in a moment. But before I do that, I want to also say that I'm tuning in here to what I want to say next here about this. I want to let you know that Circle of Miracles, what is going on here at this moment. I wanted to let you know that something has been created, and I wanted to share that with you today. What has been created is an energy exchange, and there's already been 500 hours put into this energy exchange, and I'm going to share with you, that journey about that. What I really want to express when we get beyond the stories that we're telling ourselves about each other, when we get beyond the stories about what is happening in society and the conflicts, what's really going on is energy exchange. And how do we transcend having control or needing control to just letting go and, being in relationship to each other? So I'm going to have some invitations for everybody today when I conclude my talk. But I want to share with you my journey through visual images and through video, where I've been in the last 2 to 4 years, and how that 500 hours came to be that I want to share with Circle, so that we can participate in more reciprocal relationships. So Mike, I will let you play that video, and I'll kind of narrate as we go along. So I want to talk first about how I came to Circle. About 5 years ago, my friend Janet Berkowitz introduced me to a play she wrote called The Wizard of Is. And I play the prosecuting attorney in that performance. So we've performed that quite a few times, maybe about 10 times now at this point. And that's me playing the bully. And so what we do is we have this performance, and the purpose of the performance is to have deeper conversation about suicide and bullying, and create the safe environments to have those meaningful conversations. And that's where it started. Janet kind of introduced me to Cindy Greb, and that's how I got into Circle. So from that, what emerged from that, the hours that arrived from that, is these conversations called the bridge between mental health providers and consumers. You can see Edie Weinstein there in the corner, and Gary Schoenberg in the corner as well too. And we talk about, those safe environments. We've invested many hours in that already. Gary was the one who kind of helped me to understand that the real concern is power alignment. How do we come into relationships with each other? Now, the 2 by 2 algorithm is a book I wrote, and there's going to be some visual aids here. What my deepest desire is to help everyone understand that you have an impact, even if it's not recognized by a market economy or by a business. So this is the book I created. There's me with my baby, my daughter Eloise, because she needed attention while I was making the book. Time Banking and the Karmic Margin Call Project. Now, these are my friends that helped me establish the energy exchange. And there we are talking about it. We do the really deep dive conversations about what we see in the world, the conflict, what we think of as evil, and getting underneath the surface of it. So we talk about law, legalities, we talk about business, we talk about education. How do we educate each other from a perspective that's not hierarchical? Now, this is something I've done recently. It's called the Art of Inclusive Conversation, where it's not about preaching with others. It's about having a real conversation with each other, where the relationship drives the conversation instead of having an agenda. This is me with my new friend, Randy. He does a lot of work with helping people with sobriety, and he's had his journey of overcoming alcoholism. And so we're kind of having that conversation about how spirituality plays into that. There's my friend John Pangioki, who some of you know. I think Suzanne Baxter, who's online here, you've met him in person. We've talked a lot about working with the prison system as well. And this is the 2x2 film. This was something I've done in the last year. And there's some music on it, so I'm going to let the music play, let you watch the preview. So that's the deeper question that I ask everyone to consider when they make a choice, whether to watch the film. And that's the invitation. If anyone resonates with what you just had seen, it's a 17-minute film that is available, that anybody can watch for free at any time. And it's the reason I made it was not to make this great work of art, because as you can see, I did it mostly on my own, and it was all volunteer hours that created it. But it's to deepen the conversation. And one of the invitations I ask, I invite others to participate in, is to let's look at our language about what we judge as good or bad, right or wrong. What has quality and what is crap, and ask the question, well, what resonates and where do you feel a disconnect? Because the disconnect is just as important as what resonates. So, yeah, my purpose in making the film was not to make this great work of art, but it was just to deepen the conversation. The original intention behind it was just to create like a 10-minute start of a conversation and then create a 2-hour documentary about what conversations emerged from that. So I don't know, maybe that dream has changed, maybe that vision has changed. I don't know yet, dealing with what is emergent. So that's going to really conclude my talk, because really, for me, the purpose of speaking, the purpose of being able to present like this is to start the deeper conversation. And I would like to invite, everybody watching here and on Zoom, that there's opportunities, to connect. One of the things that I'd like to extend an invitation to all of you is to our development committee, where we do have the deeper conversations. So, Susan, Linda, you both are here, Annette and Charles, you've all been a part of those conversations, and we'd like to continue to deepen that conversation, invite others to have a voice, because I believe, we all do have a voice, and our voices are meant to be heard. Another invitation is to ask you into a one-on-one or a small group conversation and share what you do as artistic expression, even if you don't know if it's official art yet, because we're all life artists. We're all expressing, we're all receiving and giving. And I think the beautiful thing about having conversations around art is helping you find the value in what you naturally do, what makes life affirming for you, and how to kind of step away from the conflict and step away from, this very competitive world, and start to entertain new relationships where, we're affirming each other in our expression. And that's what I enjoy most about the facilitator. So those are the invitations, and I see that Ken has his hand up. So we'll start the questionings and start the questions. And I think that how'd I do on time?
Perfect.
All right, excellent.